Okay, mic's alive. Players just sitting down. I don't know if the timer's working, but real quick, I have String Bean against John. I have Connor against Alex, and I have Donnie against Brendan. So I don't know who we want to watch. I don't think I asked him to get me String Bean today, so that's interesting.
I can step out and ask.
We'll do this. We're going to blue white control. Everybody's favorite, blue white control. Oh, they changed this on me. That's uh-oh. I put 4-color. Well, I didn't put creativity there. I don't know what deck he's actually playing. I just really hope it's not his artifact deck. Oh my god, it's the mirror. All right, well, buckle in. We're in for a trip. We have the mirror, round 1, right out the gate. Nothing like it. It's going to be whoever resolves the Baby Fairy first simulator. I don't know how to adjust this anymore. Oh, it's up there. Sorry, I still need 1 second. The Streamlabs updated and they moved all my buttons. Wyatt is in the booth with me. Wyatt, you can commentate about the game while I fix this. You wanted to be back here, so now I'm gonna make you do stuff.
Okay.
You don't know what you're doing, do you?
John's fetching land. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's been like 20 weeks since I've done this, but I know exactly what I'm doing.
There we go. We got the timer up. And feature match here. I hit this button here. All right, we're good. We finally can get into the game and talk about it a little bit. But yeah, we have the mirror. What we're gonna see a lot of is, well, first off, we're gonna jam it to fairy. It's pretty free to jam it because String Bean played a Spars headquarter into a basic planes, which generally means counter spells down. We're not playing any other 2-mana thing other than maybe like Dovin's Veto. You could argue he might play Mana Leak. I know Mana Leak's kind of come back, but I doubt Blue White Control is really concerned about that. They generally have a lot of blue mana open. But right here, String Bean mauled, kept a 2-lander, missed a land drop. Now is going to discard for instep. There's a Baby Fairy on John's side. We're probably going to see a pretty quick concede from String Bean here. When we get a big fairy down, we're going to get a plus. Untap 2 Triumphs, have our entire hand available to us pretty much. String Bean untaps, picks him up, fastest game 1 of all time. Oh, String Bean's playing 4-color. Huh. Because normally, it's so hard to tell with control sometimes exactly what variation they're on, because some, like, control decks are blue-white, but they'll play, like, a Spars Headquarter and another Triumph to play, like, Leyline Binding for 1 mana, because it's, like, a really good spot removal card. But here, it looks like he's actually on 4-color control, so I'm going to change that. I did see a Narset, which generally means String Bean's on the Narset Days Undoing pile as well. So 4-color, 5-color. I think it's considered normally 4-color, even though they play like the extra source. This makes Prismatic Ending able to go up to 5, makes Leyline Binding 1. You get to play Omnath, so it helps you in your aggro matchups. And life totals. That. Just charge it for that. Yeah, meta's whatever. That is true. I'll be right back. I got to find the port to plug this iPad in. It's our life total pad. I have no idea where it's at, so
Here,
those are gonna be.
sorry to interrupt your thought process. What's the card that String Bean has in his graveyard?
Dress down.
Okay.
It's just sketch art of dress down.
So what I thought, I
Sometimes a
didn't
lot of
wanna
people
make
don't know what
assumptions.
all the arts do, but yeah, it's sketch art. For example, like card is kind of hard to recognize if you haven't seen it. Is the middle land for him is the Zendikar Expedition Holy Fountain, blue white shockland. It's like $300. Yeah. You know, he's balling today.
I was going through like MTG Goldfish looking at like CDEH decks.
CEDA stacks.
Yeah. And it is outrageous how some cards are randomly just like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, it's called old cards, Wyatt. You want Bogles to be good again? Listen. With every hope, there's a dream, and with every dream, it's able to be crushed. I don't know what to tell you. You might be able to play Infect again, if you think about it. Infect and Bogles were popular around the same time, I think.
I mean, String Bean's played Bogles before in this relative meta.
What is it?
I think String Bean's played Bogles in this relative meta.
String Bean has played Bogles before. String Bean will bring the wackest stuff. That's why I never know what he's on. And especially when he just he'll be like, here's a card. And then you're like, String Bean, that's an endurance. That could be in like every single deck that you play.
Yeah.
He's liable to play Lantern Control. He's played Bogles. He's played the red-white prowess, like super prowess deck that kills you on turn 2. Like right now he's playing 4-color Control, which I believe is his favorite deck to play. That's why it's all foiled out and pretty. But either way. John losing to what Control sometimes loses to. Not really being able to tap out to remove a threat down, and then String Bean just being able to protect said threat. Or flash in another one like a Solitude. We'll see what happens though. John with that filter land. Probably make sure it's blue-white. Big Fairy coming down. There is a subtlety. String Bean does get the hard cast. And there is a dispute. I don't know if String Bean had a blue card in his hand that he could have just pitched the blue card and subtletied it. Obviously, he wanted the creature in play to kind of close the game out if he could. But if he would have pitched a blue card to subtlety, then he would have been able to. I mean, that also answers it pretty cleanly. But he would have been able to pitch it and then had the mana to pay for a dispute or something close. But instead, he had a binding. And he was able to binding the Teferi, and now his binding is going to get binding. It looks like. Or he'll just go ahead and deal with the endurance, which also seems good. Kind of have to, because you are at 8. Does 4-color still play? Do they ever play any Fire and Ices? I know that was another reason 4-color played 4-color. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they do. I don't think Streamy does either. But I'm pretty sure he submits Days Undoing in his deck, so I never know what he's doing.
So what would have happened if he was to bind, like if John was to bind String Bean's binding?
So it's like a little type of weird interaction. You would think that both cards go underneath, but binding, the way it's worded, if it leaves the battlefield, you get the permanent back. So binding would go under binding. It would leave the battlefield simultaneously. Therefore, it would no longer control the Teferi. So Teferi would come back. But because it happened on, I think it happened on Plus because John was tapped out. So actually, one of the other weird thing is John had to do it on end step. So he wouldn't have been able to activate Teferi again. But if he would have been able to respond, like, get my Teferi binded, and then I bind your binding before my end step, he would have been able to activate Teferi again as well. But I don't know. I don't know a lot about Legacy personally to know what things are good or what not. If anybody ever asks me to play Legacy, I just play Oops, so I don't really have to play.
Is your objective in Magic to not really have to play?
Yeah. I like I win the game buttons. And Oops has a very good I win the game buttons. You have to have a lot of them, but you know, if I just throw them on the table, they work out. I also got to do the famous reveal your starting 7 and go, can you beat this? And then watch somebody pick up. It was very sick.
Imagine doing that in Commander.
Yeah, you can. In CEDH. Technically, you can. It's like, you just ask everybody if they have a force, and if they don't, then... Jimmy goes in a step past. John cycles an Archmage's Charm to draw 2 cards. Has another charm in hand. Probably felt okay with letting it go. This might also come down to kind of whoever finds the man land first, if they play any. A lot of times in this spot, it's, I keep wanting to think Hallbreaker Horror, but Hall of the Storm Giants. It'll be kind of whoever gets one of those in first. Well, that's not entirely true because they have so much mana now. To even like he crew up a hall, say String Bean does, John can just take it with a charm. Going for Omnath. Trying to decide whether Archmage charms that or not. Oh, String Bean's also at 14. Allows it to go. Land drop for turn. 4 life. Now he's at 18. And pass. The pause there kind of gives String Bean a warning sign that John had something to interact. Because String Bean, if it would have snapped resolve, might have just fired off his Narset and see if it landed. Untap here. We have 8 mana for John. Now 9 to work with. To String Bean's 4. A big fairy comes down. And this is why we hold on to the Archmage's Charm. Resolves, draw. Another counter spell for John. So he's going to be able to pass with Charm and counter spell up. While also potentially being able to Solitude this Omnath. I believe John also has a Prismatic Ending in hand. So he can clear the Omnath freely. And if this John's also at 6. This could be another spot where John just lets this go and tries to deal with it later. Solituding it now, trying to preserve life total, pitching at Kahira. It goes. Dreaming gains his 4 anyway. I mean, now deciding what he wants to do. Looks like he's going for a Kahira. John probably says it's fine. Maybe not. A little surprising, especially if John does have an Archmage's Charm or a Prismatic Ending. Oh, he did let it go. This is the hard part of not being able to hear them talk. It's like Dreamy could have just played that, said pass. He's like, okay, Instep did this, but it looks like he was responding to the spell. Let it go. Devin's Vita counter spell. Has a Prismatic Ending here. Baby Teferi as well to ensure everything goes through the way he wants it to. Bounces it. Draws. Fetch land. And here we go. Control having to deal with the card that it wants to play and hates the most to see. We'll see a counterspell go in the stack and then probably a Devin's Veto. Or Devin's Veto out the gate. I didn't know if John might try to fish out another counterspell if he could. But he doesn't really have to with the fairy in play. Binding. Here you go. Probably re-slamming Kahira. Fetch down to 5. Life totals again not being too terribly important. It'll be Solitude on Instep. Exile your Kahira. Stream Bean will gain 3 more life. With Big Fairy, Hero Dominaria, if you don't recognize the art. Just about being ready to alt. Which will just completely end the game entirely. There's a Memory Delusion in the yard for John. John has a Baby Teferi, Big Teferi, Solitude swinging in. Equally the same amount of cards in hand, maybe down a card. 4 to 4. Yeah, 4 cards to 4. Streaming tries to do something to the Baby Teferi. John might just let it go. On that coming down, unless this makes 2 additional land drops. Not going to really do a whole lot. Odawara could deal with the Big Teferi for a turn. Prismatic Ending normally is a sorcery speed spell, but with a plus to fairy. Baby Teferi, he's able to cast it at instant speed.
When does Big Teferi alt?
8. if you don't know what Big Fairy's alt does, every time you draw a card, you exile a permanent your opponent controls. Target a permanent. Target permanent your opponent controls. So a lot of times it'll alt and then they'll just be like, all right, I'm gonna cycle an Archmage's Charm, draw two, exile those two permanents. So they don't even have to worry about countering anything. The other big thing is if that fairy were to ult, the very first card John draws is going to exile the Leyline Binding under String Bean's control to get his other Teferi back, to then start drawing cards again.
He did bounce the Teferi with Otawara.
In the mirror, an ulted Teferi generally means the game's over. There's like very few scenarios in which it's not, and that would be if your deck has reach in terms of like if you're playing like Jeskai control and you're playing Bolt Snap Bowl or something like that. You can sometimes get in there and get the job done that way. Fairy tries to come down, doesn't make it. This is, man, I keep on the find all these card arts, but he has the Secret Lair Shark Typhoon movie showcase art frame. It's just, can I even find that one? For people that might not have seen it. We're gonna see if this works, by the way. It's probably broken. Oh yeah, look at that. See how broke it is? I will fix it in a second. There's the card art for you. If you've not seen the Secret Lair Shark Typhoon one, it's a 30th anniversary countdown kit. But yeah, it's very interesting. They do a couple of these. They have like the cereal box, Ulamog, and stuff like that. So means all the way down to 11. John's up to 14.
Looks like John played a dig through time, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not a dig through time.
No?
If he's playing a dig through time, we have to tell him to leave the shop. The memory deluge.
Memory deluge, okay.
Kind of the same thing, but not close. Streaming saying you can get rid of one of these Leyline Bindings. They both have a Teferi underneath it. Memory Deluge did find the Hall of the Storm Giants John wanted, and I want to say a Wandering Emperor was the other card that we saw. You can flash it in, do some stuff if he wants to. John at one point in this game was all the way down to 5, I believe, after an Endurance got exiled under a binding when he was at 8. And since then he had like fetched a couple times. And now he's all the way back to 19 due to Solitude exiles and gaining life from hitting people with Solitude. Streaming playing an Endurance. His past spells have been resolving, so he knows John's generally shields down when it comes to that. So he gets an Endurance down, tucks John's graveyard into his library. Neither player have to worry about Snapcaster Mage here either because they both submitted Kahira as a companion, so they both know that that's not a concern. Wandering Emperor comes down, makes a 2-2. These 2-2s do have vigilance, so it's a decent attacker. Does get to plus on the Solitude and swing it if he wants to. It does get first strike. So Stream Bean had to put both creatures in front if you wanted to trade it out. Rage Fairy goes up to 5. Might just make another 2/2 here. Considering what he wants to do. Plussing. Solitude. If you're wondering what that does for us here, it's the Wonder Emperor, specifically this art, I believe. The plus, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, gains first strike until end of turn. So it's going to be able to actually kill this Solitude, and the Solitude not being able to trade it back out. And most importantly here, Stream Bean actually won't gain any life this way. On Prismatic Ending the Endurance, saving his token. Stream Bean at 9 or 8? Oh, he's at 9. Stream Bean top deck mode, I think, is kind of verdict or nothing, and that still doesn't really resolve a lot. Maybe it's Fairy can buy a turn. Haze Undoing. So, okay. Here, for that one. Each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into their library and then draws 7 cards. If it's your turn, end the turn. So after this, Stream Bean will draw 7 and his turn will be over. And John will also draw 7 but have a baby fairy in play. So most likely going to be able to actually kill Stream Bean unless he draws an Odawara to bounce the baby fairy and then interact with the board. I don't even think he looked. Technically, he can Odawara and do something maybe, but it's definitely just over. Plus, get in there. I think Stream Bean did it more or less for the memes. Looks now. But I think, like, again, Odawara is the only draw that remotely does anything. But it still doesn't do anything.
So when John plays Hall of the Storm Giants, that counts as a creature that can attack this turn?
Hall would enter tap, so you played it this turn before. But yeah, manlands cannot be, like, the turn you play a manland, you cannot create it in attack unless it has haste in itself. But a lot of, I don't think there's a manland that does have haste. I don't think so. Well, look at that. Our control matchup is over. Yeah, I would say you played the previous turn, so doesn't really matter. But John's going to take it 2-0